and gentlemen, please welcome on stage, Ellen Heap, Board Member, Dutch EV Drivers Association.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. First of all, they asked me to thank all our sponsors, because without them, you wouldn't be sitting here at 9 o'clock in the morning. But it's a great event, so maybe a big applause for their sponsors, because they make this all possible. Thank you so much. Does someone have a bell? Because that's from last year, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that's. Can we maybe dim the light a bit, because we are in such an intimate room now, and I think I want to reward everyone who is here this morning, because it is contrarily to, I think, some of the technical topics. This is a really important topic, second-hand car market. And I was just talking to the people in the Netherlands, and they said the second-hand sales of EVs was 40% higher this year than last year. So it still is only like 4% of the whole bunch of occasions, but it is really a growing market. And that is important, because I'm part of the Dutch Electric Vehicle Drivers Association, so we interview every year our members. We have about 18,000 members. And affordable cars is the thing that they need. That is what we all need. And what you see in the market is all new premium models coming in, and people desperately need cheap cars. And second-hand cars are, moreover, cheaper, at least. But there also then comes a whole different palette of things across, because second-hand people that buy second-hand cars, they might be different, and maybe we need another approach to attract them. And one of the items that we're going to talk about this morning, I mean, is also about what do they expect from that car? I mean, do they trust the batteries? For example, we experienced that, and we asked that out, that in the Netherlands, about 90% of the people that buy an used EV want to have a battery check, but it's maybe in 25 or 30% of the cases it is offered to them. So that is a serious issue. So since the second-hand market is booming, I think it's important to do that. And it's also good to talk about, should we have to boom the market? Or will it just come by itself when there's new models coming in the market? And we all know there's a bunch of Model 3s now coming into, at least in the Dutch market, and I'm guessing it's everywhere in Europe. So lots of questions, and we've got an excellent panel today to talk about it. So I would like to ask on stage Christian Peters. He's from the Austrian EV Drivers Association. Please applaud them, because it's difficult enough for them. Jean-Rémy Thomas. He's from Indicata. He will tell some excellent details about the second-hand market. Clément Monzon, he's from Avere France. And we've got Erwan Cotelet, that's what you eat. And he's from Decra. Okay. Thank you so much. And I've just, there's 4 people on the stage, so we just do one first slide, because I asked them to send a sort of picture of what sort of defines them in their work. So can I have the next slide, or can I do it myself? Oh, yeah, there. Self-sufficient. By the way, this gives me... Yeah, okay. This is Jean-Rémy. Jean-Rémy, tell me something. Who are you, and what is this on the picture?
So I'm Jean-Rémy Thomas. I'm working for Indicata. Just briefly on the company, maybe so you can have the context. Indicata is a brand that belongs to Autorola Group, which is a Danish company established in 1996 and doing auction sales on B2B exclusively online. So we were born digital. And so we have several activities in which Indicata, which is actually building residual values and valuations, what we call valuations, so it's used car values, from the market. So we scrape websites with ads, and we build on the other side algorithm and way to calculate the value of your car. Because on a new car it's easy because there's a list price, but on the used car, no used car is exactly the same.
But do we see you? Yeah, I'm just gonna. Do you see you in a second-hand car here on the picture, or is this a new car?
Yeah, no. So those are interesting. So sorry about that. It's not EVs because I didn't have any pictures with EVs, but it's still very special car. So the one on the left is, maybe you've seen that car, is it's a quite futuristic car built by Volkswagen. And this car only uses 1 liter per 100 kilometer. So it's called, I think it's X1. And I had the chance to drive it back in the time. So obviously not electrical, but still trying to.
Okay, that's the last time you
to
drove
use
that.
as least diesel as possible. And the one on the right is so BMW i8, which is a hybrid vehicle with, I think, 350 horsepower or something like that. So quite futuristic as well, because it was using very light material. If you touch the door on the right, it's so light, it's very impressive. So again, to reduce the consumption, it was partly petrol and partly electrical and very light.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we will excuse you for using all those ice-related things. That's okay, yeah? Clément, what are we seeing here?
Yes, good morning, everyone. So this is me and my team at the first repair center entirely dedicated to electrics and plug-in hybrids in Paris. Okay. So I have chosen that picture because, well, first it's my team, so it's always nice to put them in the light, but also because I think it's also a step forward in the creation of a electric maintenance sector, which is, of course, an essential condition for the development of electric mobility.
Okay, and what is Midas? Is that just a restaurant, or is it? What's that?
Well, it's a repair company.
Okay,
in
that's the
France.
name of the. Okay, I'm sorry. It looks so nice. So I thought, okay, looks really good. Thank you so much. Next picture. Christian, is it snowing there in Austria, or what is this?
Yes, that was actually we had an e-Niro vehicle that we got for testing, and we drove around from Austria to Switzerland during the winter. What I have in my hand is the e-Mobility Austria membership card, which is also a charge card, and we tried to use it across our trip, and it worked very well.
Yeah, because that is one of the main topics in your association. This card that people could charge.
It's one of the main
everywhere.
benefits. You have only one card, and essentially almost all public charges in Austria, you can activate those. Yeah. It's about 97% coverage. So of all the charge cards that you can get in Austria, we have the best coverage. It's not always the best price, but it's one card, and you don't need to think, I need to charge now. Which card is now the right card? There's one card that always works. So
I love
that's
that roaming. Thank you so much. Erwan, what are we seeing here?
So, morning everyone. So, my name is Erwan Coutelet. So, what we see here in the background is a VinFast VF8 car. So, I had this chance during the last months to do several test drives on EVs because I'm not, unfortunately, an EV driver for now. But based on this latest experience, I plan to switch to an EV car in the coming months. A used one, yeah.
Oh, wow. So, you're doing this panel all for yourself?
Exactly.
Okay, that's
right.
good.
And so, yeah, this picture has been taken in front of the Decross headquarters in Stuttgart, and so here basically this was one of the charging experience on this Vietnamese car.
Oh, that's great. Well, now you've seen all the speakers. My name is Ellen Heap, and I'm a board member of the Dutch EV Drivers Association, and I'm also in the steering committee next to Christian of the Global EV Alliance. And I just want to know who knows the Global EV Alliance? Who has ever heard of it? Oh, a couple of them. Really nice, because there's one of the Slovenian friends as well in the room. And the Global EV Alliance is a sort of a grassroots network of more than 66 associations from 38 countries. And there are all EV drivers associations. And what we do, we gather monthly. Every month we've got a webinar, and we talk not only about policies in countries, but also about how to grow your own organization, because we think, especially now, in the stage where EV driving is now, the e-mobility revolution is now, it's important to really use the end consumer, to use the vision and the experience of the end consumer well, because we think that accelerates e-mobility. So this was the promotion from my side from till now. I just want you to know that you've been here and you've come out of bed so early. So please, let's make this an interactive session. So if there's a question, just raise your hands or just shout, because I cannot see you because of the lights. Because we really want to engage with you, because I'm sure that you are as experienced as we are. So if there's questions or opinions, please do. Let's first dive, and I'm gonna sit. Let's first dive into the current situation. What does it look like, the second-hand market at this moment? Please take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So in order to have a better visibility on what is the current situation, I've prepared for you a few slides just to explain what is the current trend on EVs, both on volume sales. You've talked about sales, so I will be talking about stock as well, and also price positioning. So what you see on the screen is the evolution with a 100 base in January 2023, looking at how the price of any used car, so it's including not only EVs but also ICE cars, how it has evolved over time since January 2023. And what we see, actually, it's a kind of a good news, is that prices are decreasing. Okay, so I'm saying good news because in the past, so after COVID, so 2021, 2022, there's been, as you know, a chip shortage, which has then led to a lack of production in new cars, which has then created traction on the used car prices. So used car prices from 2021 to 2022 have been super high. Okay, so very difficult for end consumers then to buy any car. So what you see here is we are coming from a very high situation on the base 100 in January 2023.
Can I sort of, because you can see loads of, I know that when you look at sheets, you think, oh my God, what is saying that? You told me it is about a 30% decrease in price.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Which is important
for
to know.
EVs.
For EVs, yeah. Yeah.
So currently you see the depreciation is approximately between, okay, let's say 15% to 10% more or less. There's an exception for UK, which you see, which is the orange curve, because it's the only market, including Ireland, but with the right-hand drive. Usually the reaction to the market is much stronger. Okay, so this is why it's been up and then down. But what is interesting to see is that from the early 2024, it looks like prices are stabilizing, okay, and plateauing at least. And we will see that into more details. So this is the evolution for at least big five markets. So Germany, Spain, France, UK, Italy, and Netherlands, which is also an interesting country to track. So what is the consequence? Is it the consequence or is it the cause? But I wanted also to show you the evolution of stock. And this is stock only for EVs. Okay, so if you look back in, let's say end of 2022, early 2023, we had in Europe, so sorry, it's misleading. It's the whole European market. I don't know why France is ticked here, but we had early Jan 2023, less than 100K cars on stock for sale, EVs. By November, we had the double. And in some markets, I take the example of France, we had 4 times more. Okay, so in France, 10K in January 2023, 40K stock cars in stock. Which I mean,
there's so much more models to get on.
Exactly. So first of all, the offer has been bigger. Okay, then it leads to more sales, but still it's difficult because EVs are still expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is what I put this famous picture of the Japanese artist on the tsunami, because really it's been a tsunami, at least for France. If you look 4 times more in a year and a half, or maybe less than 2 years, it's huge. So is the second-hand market consumer able to absorb what's currently arriving on stock? Okay. At Indicata, we have a KPI which we called market day supply. So market day supply is So it's not our copyright term. It has been established by an American economist, saying that the attractivity of a car is related to its pricing. Saying differently, if there's a lot of offer on the market, the price goes down. And the contrary also applies. If it's quite rare, price rises. Okay? So we have tried to put that into the automotive sector. So I just show you how we calculate that, because my next slide is also talking about this. So let's imagine that we have 8 cars identical on the market, same brand, same model, same trimline, same mileage, same age. You have 8 similar cars available on stock on the market. And we know, because at Indicata we scrape every day, every single day we scrape the market, we know that 8 identical cars have been sold over the past 45 days. So it means that the market needs 45 days to absorb what's on stock. But what happens if you have 8 cars and only 2 car sales over the past 45 days? Then it's simple. 45 days times 4, because market needs 4 times 45 days to absorb what's on stock. And this is exactly what's happening on EVs at the moment. We have much more offer than what the market is able to absorb. So, consequence, and I'm showing you here the marketability score, per engine type. And you see that BEVs have been way higher than the other engine types for a long period of time. But still, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because you can see that since September, this tendency is trying to catch up with the other engine types. So you see...
But I don't really understand it, because you say there's much more EVs on the market, price is getting lower. Why is it still a problem to sell an EV?
Prices are starting to get lower. But at the moment, if you look in early, let's say, 2024, they were still very high. There's still a huge gap. It's 3,000 euros gap between an ICE car and an electrical car.
It's just the price then?
Yeah. Well, this is a consequence, because you're a bit ahead of my presentation, and that's good. No, that's good. That's good. But then the consequence is this. So because the attractivity of those cars have been not so great over time, prices have gone down. And the orange yellow curve that you see here is the same I showed you at the principle, but split it per engine type. And you see that EVs have gone much, much lower, and this is where we are talking about the 33% or 30%. And again, you see that this is plateauing since summer. So our best guess regarding that is there's a kind of a parity in pricing between ICE cars and EV cars. And when the end customer has a choice between a 208 petrol or a 208 EV, given the law, etc., maybe they will be willing to use or to buy an EV instead of a petrol. But it's a question of price at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it.
If
you've been interested to all of this, you can download for free on indicata.com our market watch, which is available every month.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
This is a really advice. I've read it. It is like incredible, well documented research. So thank you so much. Is there someone having a question for him? Yeah? Is there someone? Yeah, I like that. Short question, please.
Yes, it's maybe a comment. I was wondering whether subsidies given to new EVs would generate a kind of a distortion of decision makers of used cars.
Thank you very much. Yes, and even more on EVs. We've seen what happened in Germany early this year. I think from one day to another, the government decided to stop all incentives on EVs on the German market. Okay, so obviously new sales have dropped, but this would impact used car market in maybe 2 or 3 years' time. So maybe prices will stabilize even more in Germany in 2 or 3 years' time.
That is interesting, because that tendency is in all the European countries,
Yeah.
that all the subsidies are getting lower, lesser, and that has got an impact on the market. Yeah.
And maybe a second example, if I may. In France, we have launched what we call leasing social. In early this year, the government has decided to subsidize massively the leasing for used cars, for EVs, sorry. And this has created a good movement at the beginning because there have been many EV sales, but at the end, all those used car EVs will come back to the second-hand market and will create exactly the tsunami, as I said, because there will be much more offer on the market, and then price will drop
automatically
again,
because it's demand and supply.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Someone else want to ask something or to make a comment? Okay, then let's go to Clément. Thank you so much for the introduction. Clément, we talked a bit about the current situation in France. What do you know about the French EV drivers? What is the market for the used EVs?
Yes, thank you. To start, it's I think important to emphasize that the second-hand market is crucial in France. It accounts for 6 out of every 7 vehicle transactions, so it's really a breathing room for the new sales and new registration.
Yeah.
So if you want a new sale, a dynamic new sale market, you should also have a dynamic second-hand market. And so just a quick introduction. I think I have a slide that I can show.
Oh, you've got a slide. Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Yes. So at AVE France, we regularly survey the French population on their views about their views of on EVs, and it has been done over the years, over a 10-year period, and we see that the interest is quite steady. It's a third of the population that is willing to buy an EV, and among those interested, 74% would consider buying a used vehicle, and their motivation is lower cost, lower running cost, available incentives, but we may talk a bit more about that later, and also a saving on purchases, affordability of those vehicles. So we see that there is a demand, and there also is a supply. So because the EV adoption really started growing at around 2020, we launched at the beginning of 2024 a quarterly monitor of second-tier market, and we've seen that there is really a market that is already there and growing. So in the first 3 quarters of 2024, nearly 100,000 vehicles have been sold, which is a 70% increase compared to the same time in 2023. So yes, there is a demand, there is a supply side, and that's why the second-hand market is growing.
Yeah, but I like this because you didn't mention it. It's 1 in 5 second-hand vehicles has been purchased by a company.
Yes.
So 4 out of 5 is just private people. It's different people than companies, eh? So is it a different target group then, or?
Yes, and we also see that in the new registration, where the individuals are much more present and dynamic than the companies.
Yeah, and is that, what sort of influence does that have on the market, that it is a different customer?
Yes, it's a different consumers, but also in France, the B segment of vehicles is very strong, and it was the segment that was less, where there is less models. But we have seen in the past months that many segment B affordable cars has been sold or will be sold in few months. So we think that it could make a change and have many more company fleets that will go greener, which is important because they will be the one providing the second-hand market with well-maintained used EV. So they have a crucial role to play for the used EVs.
Okay. Thank you so much. Anyone, any questions to Clément about the French market, maybe? Okay, because then we're gonna travel to Austria. And what can you say about the second-hand market in Austria?
Yeah, so before we, let me just go. Before we talk about the second-hand market, I wanted to point out that Austria is very peculiar about the car market in itself. So what I'm showing on this chart is new car registrations in the first 3 quarters of this year for all drivetrains. And what you can see is about 2/3 to 3/4 of the market is actually a fleet market. So private customers is the minority. So the way it works in Austria, that new cars are predominantly purchased by corporate customers or by municipalities, and private customers tend to buy used market. So it completely switches now. This is the new registration market. If I would draw the same thing about the used market, you would see that 86% of the used of the fleet, of the existing fleet on the street, is privately owned, right? And if I look at, I've put in yellow on the chart the share of battery electric vehicles within that. So overall, of all the cars newly registered in the first 3 quarters of this year, 68% were company purchases, and within that, 19% were battery electric vehicles. Now, if you look into the private segment, we found out, or actually the Austrian organization OLE found it out. This is Leitstelle Elektromobil in Austria, so it's Austriatech. They analyzed it very deeply, and they found out there's a distinct difference between male and female private purchases. So as you can see, first of all, the share of female purchases is lower, but more significantly, if you look at the battery electric vehicle content within that, you can see the propensity of a female buying a battery electric vehicle is about half of male
Why
purchases.
they don't buy it? Why is the difference? What is the explanation?
Right now, we only have the data, and we can assume what it is. So I have my assumption. I talked to my wife, and my wife is very loud and vocal in saying there are not many small cars available. I want a small
true. They
car,
don't like women.
right?
Don't like to drive in. I don't know. That it's a bit of a gender thing. But
And when we have events in Austria from the Electric Mobility Club, and we go to car manufacturers, and they tell me, you know, we have the Polestar 2, now the Polestar 3 is coming out, and my wife usually says, is that a small car? No, it's a bigger car. Why the heck is it a bigger car, right? I need smaller cars, right?
I like that because always I'm also a female in this sort of male. You are always talking about cars, and to be honest, I'm not even that interested. I never know the models, and I just like, you know, if it's convenient and warm and everything works, and I'm not at the right side of the road waiting for the road assistance. That's what counts.
Right. So. That's my assumption, right? The car models on the market are not the right models yet, especially for, as you said, a female doesn't care about the logo or about, you know, it has a nice new lights in the front or something like that, or new grooves on the chassis. She wants a utility car, a car that works for what she wants to get to, right?
We're not going to generate it because there's females that like that, but it's just no. Continue. Yeah, sorry.
So that's the new car market, and I tried to put it in perspective. As I said, now normally, if you look at the fleet, you would expect that 86% of the fleet is in private hands. Now, if I look at just the battery electric market now. I have 3 pie charts there. On the left, you can see the new registrations in the first 3 months of this year. Only 24% of new battery electric vehicles were by private purchasers. So that's similar to the new market overall. It's more pronounced, so you can see it's now 3/4 of the market is fleet purchases, but at least 1/4 is private purchases. And then normally, the normal flow is companies buy the cars, they give it back to the used car market in about 3 to 4 years, and then it flows into the private market. now that is the case, but it's less pronounced for battery electric vehicles. So the good thing is we had a dip in adoption rate in Austria this year. You can see we are in the first 3 quarters it was about -8% compared to last year. Whereas gasoline cars are improving and hybrids are improving quite significantly. But then if I look at the used market, we had a boom again. So we had the first boom around 2021 in the used car battery electric vehicle market. And now we have a boom again after 2 very slow years, right? So a significant growth of 56% year over year on the used car market. And the majority of the used car market is private purchases, but it's not as pronounced as for ICE cars, right? But at least, you know, it's more than half of the used car market for battery electric vehicles are going to private owners. And you can also see that if you compare it to the new registrations, only 24% are in private hands. But once it's going to the fleet, it's not 86%, but at least, you know, it's 35%. So it's much more than the new registrations. You can see that the trend is still there, right? The cars start their life as a corporate vehicle mostly. Then they flow into the second-hand market, and out of the second-hand market, the majority of the second-hand market then ends up in private hands. So now the question is, private customers are obviously more reluctant to buy battery electric vehicles, and you might ask what it is. Now, we already said we are on a steep ramp-up, right? So first of all, the car market, the used car market was really limited in the number of vehicles available to the market. Now that has a relief. We already talked about that Model 3. We had a big delivery wave about 5 years ago, and those cars are now open up in the second-hand market. And that's important for multiple reasons. One is the volume is available, but the other thing is we started in the second-hand market with Renault Zoes and Nissan Leafs, and they had very limited range. And we recently had a survey in Austria, and about half of Austrian respondents, private respondents, anticipated that after 3 years, the battery range has diminished to lower than 50% of the original capacity, right? So it's obviously not true, but if you purchase now a Nissan Leaf or a Renault Zoe with the initial 24 kilowatt-hour battery, and you expect it now has 12 kilowatt-hours of usable battery, then they are reluctant to buy it, right? So that's one of the reasons, right? And now we have...
But are you saying that there's myth and facts that are not correct with the second-hand buyer?
Yes.
Do they have different false ideas than a first-hand buyer?
It's much more pronounced. So it's the same things, but it's more pronounced. So again, the myth that after 3 years, only 3 years, half of the battery capacity is gone is obviously stupid. And it's more pronounced than in the corporate fleet. In corporate fleet, they know that the tools are available. You can look at the health of the battery. But again, it works in conjunction. So first of all, the initial used tent market was those cars with limited range. Now we have the Konas. We have the Teslas now on the market. And you can get a used Model 3 for about 20,000 euros now in Austria. So that's... You know, you get a car, you know, that has a decent range, even if it would be half, which is not true. It's a car that, you know, it gets you around. So I see this effect in Austria. And the other myth, so there are 2 myths. One is battery health, and the other one is battery electric cars. There was this study floating around that battery electric cars have much more expensive repairs. And now, obviously, if you're a private owner and you think if you purchase a battery electric vehicle, you end up with more running cost, and actually the contrary is the case, then you are reluctant to do that, right? And I wanted to mention a third one, which is kind of funny, but Austrian private buyers, they prefer to drive stick shift. And in our private...
What does it mean?
A stick shift, a car where
you
you know, change the gears manually. And the funny thing is, there are so many private buyers, when they talk to me and my wife, they say, I'm so scared if I don't have a stick shift, how will that work? You know, and my
but
wife
that's
tells
Austria.
them,
I don't know if that counts for all the countries.
My wife tells them, it's much more convenient, come on, right?
Yeah.
But we have a neighbor in our own department building, And she approached us. She now has, she bought a combustion car, but with an automatic drivetrain. And she's so scared about it, you know, it's funny, you know, it's those myths, right? So we need to talk to them. That's what we do as EMC anyway. But there's more to do on the private market, and there's more reluctancy and more concerns, and we need to address those.
And I think you're right, because we as the Dutch EV drivers, we've got this booklet on myth and facts, and I think you sort of inspired me to also focus on the second-hand buyer, because they've got different myths and different facts. And thanks you so much for your contribution. Is someone wanting to ask something to Christian about? Yeah.
Thank you. Ben Lawson from Enterprise.
Can you also say who you are so that we know where the question is coming from?
Yeah, Ben Lawson from Enterprise Mobility. So I work in the vehicle rental sector. And firstly, thank you for the comments so far. They've been fantastic, really, really interesting. Probably a good time to comment on the fleet side of things that I may be representing here as we begin to move on to some of the solutions. I think one of the things to remember is roughly half of the new car sales that then feed that used car market go through that fleet sector. So whether it be the lease cos, rental companies like us, or businesses, a little more in Austria by the looks of it. So we just need to be a little bit careful when we talk about that it's a good thing that used car prices are very low. The fleet sector will only bring these vehicles in if the holding cost of using them is acceptable. So if the new car price is much higher and the used car price is much lower, then it's not an affordable vehicle for fleets to hold, which is why we're beginning to see in this sort of second cycles that are coming through, the lease prices are going much, much higher, etc. If we want to support a really healthy and vibrant used car market, it's important that we find ways to rectify the myths such as the batteries aren't going to work. And hopefully, I'm sure we're going to get some great comments on batteries soon. Yeah. But these vehicles are fabulous vehicles. I've driven one myself for many years. They're likely to have a much longer lifespan than their ICE counterparts with engines that they deteriorate over time, whereas these BEV engines are going to last much longer. So trying to get the used car market to see this as an investment for a much longer period of time means that they can afford to pay a little bit more for that price than they would do for the ICE counterpart. That's a narrative that we don't really hear very much, that we would love to try and see ways of supporting that in the marketplace.
Yeah. Thank you for your comment. Yeah. Before we go into, because I like your comment, but it's sort of, I would like to sort of explain also one of the deep dive into the battery and the myth and the things about the battery before we maybe start also talking about other narratives that can help boost the second-hand market. But thanks for that.
I wanted to comment on the price level. So one of the things that I see coming next year, the emission targets are lowering in the European Union. So and if you look at what companies need to do, what the manufacturers need to do to still sell the car in sufficient quantity to reach the emission targets, I'm expecting a price war coming towards us. So on one hand, I understand what you're saying, that's not good for corporate purchasers that have already purchased the cars and are trying to return it. But what it also means is that more affordable cars will appear as new cars. And that's a good thing. And we also see, coming back to my wife's comment, the affordable cars are coming, finally, right? The Hyundai Insta is coming, the Citroën EC3 is coming, the Renault R5 is coming. So we are going to see next year more cars in the 25,000 euro range, or even lower than that. Yeah. And that's a boost on one hand for the new car market, but obviously we have the concern for the used car market. But so it will also affect the used car market and make the used car more affordable. So on one hand, I'm expecting also a boost for the second-hand market, but we have what we just discussed. We obviously have the implication, the repercussion for corporate buyers, and what will it do for the lease rates. It's still, for me, it's an optimistic scenario. I think the price war that I'm expecting for next year is generally healthy. I see that we are getting close, or even we will get to price parity where a battery electric vehicle and the corresponding ICE car has the same price tag. We have seen this, the first signs in Austria. You can now get an ID3 in Austria for 20,000 euros.
Yeah.
Obviously with strings attached, you need to finance it with Porsche Bank and those kind of things. But it's the first sign, right? If you look at the ICE car, if you look at the Golf is now more expensive in that scenario. So I think that's good. There are some repercussions obviously on the leasing rate, and that might stop corporate purchase of battery electric vehicle. On the same side, new cars will get cheaper, so I think it's positive in overall.
Yeah, so it's maturing the market with all its problems and challenges. Let me go to the last speaker at the panel. You are like an expert in battery health, which is a big concern.
Yeah, exactly. So, can you hear me? Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to focus on this subject, as it is one of the main concerns, and we already heard a lot about batteries right now. So yeah, at DECRA, one of DECRA's innovation is the remote battery state of health test, and that's what I will focus on in the next slide. But before entering into the subject, I would like to give you some insights about DECRA. So DECRA is almost 100 years old company, so one of the world's leading testing, inspection, and certification organizations. So here you have some key figures about the group. So we are 48,000 employees and present in 60 countries. The main activity, our core business, is vehicle inspection. So as you can see on the screen, we did some 28.5 vehicle inspection only last year. The interesting thing with this company is that we are a non-listed company, meaning that we do not have any shareholders. So all the earnings are invested whether in company acquisitions or in innovations. And so that's the reason why future vehicle and e-mobility is one of our corporate focus area we are investing a lot in. Talking about our services, we offer a wide range of services which can be grouped into 5 service divisions. So the first one is vehicles. So here we are ensuring the performance and the safety on the road of all kinds of vehicles through our testing services and inspections. Then we do have digital and product solutions. This is all stuff related to product testing, following the standards and regulation before global market entry. Then we do have industrial assets. So here it's all about safety inspection of building and infrastructure, and also industrial inspection. Then people, processes, and organization. So here it regroups all our activities related to certification, advisory, training, and last but not least, we are one of the top 6 HR provider in Germany. So having said that, long story short, I would like to start showing you what are the most critical barriers. I mean, we already talked a lot about all of those during yesterday's session and already during the speech from the colleagues here. What I will focus on is on the uncertainty related to residual value, and especially the need of having this battery state of health test. So first of all, why is it so important to have a battery state of health test? So as Jeremy showed, the volume are growing in terms of used car EVs. Here I just wanted to show what was the number of vehicles sold in the last years in Germany, but we can see this trend in all European countries. So basically, as the volume are growing, of course, the concerns will follow related to the battery. And as you may all know, the battery is one of the most expensive parts of electric vehicles. So in average, it represents 30% of the value of the car. And as you can see on the graph on the right side of this slide, for some models, the price to replace a battery can go till 60% of the list price value, which is huge. So now I don't know if you're all familiar with the aging of the battery and the SOH, so state of health. I will make it short. Basically, there are two different reasons for a battery for the aging of the battery. On one hand, the time, and on the other hand, the usage. So basically, to make it simple, we can make a link with our cell phones. Because it's exactly the same approach. After a period of use, then you have a lower capacity of your cell phone battery. So here it's exactly the same. So the SOH is it gives information about the remaining state of aging of the battery. Here you have an interesting graph on this slide showing that. After 80%, then the state of phase of the battery decrease really rapidly, meaning the aging of the battery is degrading. Of course, once again, depending on the usage, and it's not from one day to another. It's after a long period of use, as Christian just mentioned. So the challenge today is that it is not possible to read consistently the manufacturer data to see this battery state of health. For many reasons, you have them here on the slide, but one of them is that the data and the internal calculation of the BMS system, so the battery management system of the manufacturers, is protected. And so today, the only way to get this state of health is to fully charge and discharge the batteries of the cars, which is time-consuming and almost impossible in our businesses. So that's the reason why at DECRA we developed our own solution. So our battery test for electric cars. This one is able to test the BEVs and also the PHEVs, so the plug-in hybrid vehicles. So basically, our experts, they created an algorithm and a specific test procedure that has been patented. And also we asked to the Aachen University to validate this test procedure. And so currently we are capable to test more than 100 car models. And we do have a technology center in Germany, and so we do have experts there continuously adding some electric vehicles in our test. So how does it work? It's quite simple. The idea behind that is to offer a transparent report to the buyers. So basically, we do have a dongle. So you need only to have this dongle and a cell phone or a tablet in order to make the test. So first of all, you plug the dongle to the onboard diagnosis of the car. The first test is the status test, where we are gathering all the information coming from the battery management system. And then we do have to do a short acceleration, because our test is based on the internal resistance of the battery. So here the idea is to gather the current and voltage of the battery in order to make the calculation works. And after a few minutes, you get directly the report within your mailbox with the state of health result. So here it's a percentage. Normally, what we used to see right now is almost all the young EVs are at 99% state of health, which is quite normal because they're really recent, let's say. But yeah, this is how the report looks like, with some information about the battery of the car, some technical information, and at the end of the day, the most important part, the remaining state of health of the battery.
You told me that after when it reached like 70%, then what is the time between 100 and 70%? Sort of in an average?
It depends. So it depends of the usage.
But what is the range?
So
what would you say?
To be honest, I have no idea. So the period of use will it's a question of years. Huh? So it's not it's not a question of months. It's a question of years that we'll see this battery degradation.
Because we see Model S's of 8 years
Correct.
having a battery like of 90% maybe. So
yeah, so yeah, so I don't know exactly what will be.
no, but because why the reason I don't want to interrupt you, but the reason why I'm asking is because experts don't say anything. Consumers think, oh, this is a topic. So I think we might even be more broad. Yes.
I can maybe talk a bit about that because we published last month at the Paris Automotive Show a report on the lives of battery of electric vehicles, and we think that we have a 15 period of time where before we meet that
15 years.
Yeah, 15 years
Before you reach 80%.
Yeah. But we think with a much more repairability focus on battery, we could even go to 20 years. And well, it's not the topic of that of our panel, but this report also focuses on the second life of the battery and how we can use it to storage renewable energy. So even when the battery is not suitable for this first life inside a vehicle, you can still use it for many years
for other
after
things.
that.
Yeah. I interrupted you. I'm so sorry, but it's important to know.
And coming back to your question, I think that the point here is once again to build trust with the buyers, and by showing him those kind of results, of course, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 20 years that we will reach those 70%. Coming back to your question, but I think that the question here is more to give transparency to the buyer. Especially when we are talking about used cars, it's really, really important. And one of the main concerns is about the battery. So,
but you know what? We are doing a survey now in the Netherlands about different state of health checks. And you know what the most annoying point is? That the dealers don't work. It is we offered them. We said, well, we've got 4 checks. One of them is yours, I think. Mm-hmm. And we asked about 150 dealerships. They said, I want to do the testing. But after 3 months, it was only about 21 dealers that did it, because no time, people have no clue how to do it. And that is because you want to buy a second-hand car. You are at the car dealer, and then you get offered a car. But how do you do that battery check if it takes a day? So you understand my question?
Yeah, I get your point. And I think that typically here, what could be interesting is to integrate those kind of tests within the certified pre-owned program of the manufacturer, meaning that the dealer should be obliged to deliver this state of health report when selling or when trading a car.
Yeah, but then you see, I will come over to you. Then we saw the problem because we're going to publish this report at the beginning of next month. So I really don't know the results. But if there's the brand, if there's the brand doing this state of health, there's a different outcome than if there's independent. So what as a consumer, what should I believe then?
I mean, once again, we are one of the leaders in the TIC market, so we are neutral, and that's what I'm mentioning here in the last slide. The idea is to be independent from the manufacturer, and so I think that as a UV buyer, I will trust instead of trusting the manufacturer, I will trust DEKRA.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
But you, I'm sorry, you wanted to.
No, I just wanted to add 2 comments. First of all. Showing the battery health, I think, is a great thing to do to reassure the customer, but you know that nothing similar is available on ICE cars. You don't have, so you can buy some historical checks on has the maintenance been done regularly, but it's not existing on ICE cars.
But you've got reports on if the number of kilometers that they drove is correct, so that is also a sort of true proof that it is a good ICE car.
Yeah.
So you want a similar thing for...
The end consumer has to buy it. Here it's offered for free, kind of, you know? So, not for free.
Yeah, but that's the way how the dealership offers it to the client. I think it's great to have all these things, but the proof is in the eating. So what happens when dealers want to sell their cars?
Yeah, it's true. And second topic about that, which is also linked to the dealer, is I think, not to blame specifically on the dealer side, but there is a lot to do on the dealer side because the after-sales, the second-hand salesman has not the same training as the new car one. So
I
they
know.
don't know how to sell the car, actually. There's been many trainings for the new car, but not for the used car salesman. Or maybe it's... But
That is so you bring an extra topic so that you think, because most of the time the new cars are sold by the real dealerships,
Yeah.
and the second-hand ones are also sold by like non-dealerships, like independent car, and you think they know less about EVs?
no, even in dealerships, even in official franchise dealerships, they don't know how to sell the car.
That's interesting.
And I had one example, one concrete example of one dealer group in France who has taken the topic of EVs because they were flooded with EVs, and they said, okay, first we have to train the used car salesman, and second of all, for them to have, as a company car, an EV. Because I'm really a fan of EVs. Unfortunately, I don't drive an EV at the moment. I would love to on my next car, but it's just great to drive. So you have to experience the product to be able to sell it even better afterwards.
Of course. First, Christian, then you. You wanted to comment on that one.
Yeah, there's one thing we haven't touched yet. So you talked about battery health, and one of the things that's going around is an EV with a smaller battery is more economical or more environmentally friendly than a large battery. And I dispute it in the meantime, because what's really wearing a battery down is cycles, right? And if you have a small battery, then you need more cycles to go the same distance, right? And that's one thing that we also need to educate the public. So one thing is, it's cycles. You need to look after cycles. You need to look at car. Does the car have thermal management? So the early cars didn't have it. So that's something that somebody who buys a used car should be aware of.
So it's not the battery, it's also the other things.
And obviously it's the chemistry. So if you have an LFP battery, then you have much more cycles than the battery can sustain before it degrades. So I think those kind of things, we need the dealers to educate. So they probably don't know that. But also the public. Again, as I said, the public buyer tends to buy a larger battery anyway because of concerns the battery might be worn down. But those things that cycles are a gating factor, then battery chemistry is a gating factor, and you need to look at if the car has thermal management, and if not, did it charge very much DC? So those are the things. I think that's like, you know, as a private buyer, that you need to look at the suspension if it's still okay. So you know those kind of things, or maybe you have a steering belt, has it been replaced? You ask those questions for a nice car. So we need to educate the buyers of what they need to look for on a used car, I think.
Erwan, you wanted to also to mention something.
No, just wanted to mention that what Jean-Rémy was mentioning about the training, I think for me it's key. It's the first step. The dealers need to be aware how to sell an EV, because it's totally different from an ICE car. And so here we are supporting plenty of OEMs in building their trainings with some e-learnings and so on. And so we do also have some high voltage trainings for the maintenance people. This is also one part of the challenges when we are talking about e-mobility.
Yeah, and I also wanted to mention that we also provide trainings for car dealerships, and it is a struggle for them to find time to attend those trainings, and especially for dealers that haven't been able to sold an EV already, and it's especially true for used car dealership. And also, what is interesting is that in the EV second-hand market, the automotive professional facilitate, I think it's 78% of the transaction, of the used vehicle EV transaction. So it's much more than in the ICE vehicle market, where you have more, let's say, peer-to-peer, one individual from another kind of transaction. So it's especially true that we should train those car dealerships. And if I may add just one point on the on battery and second life of those battery is something that might be positive is that at the end of the life of your EV, your battery will still have value. and there is still a residual value in your battery for storage and second life, which you don't have with at the end of the life of a combustion vehicle. So maybe that is something that we can take into consideration, because we won't sell car for 1, 2, 3 years that we know will die in the end of its owner. There is still value, and that value can be...
That is a big question we get, because the people, our consumers, say, well, what happens with the batteries when the car is gone? And there is a huge recycling market, and we should also mention that more. I'm just looking at the room, because we are discussing here. Is there someone that wants to add a remark? Yeah. Yeah, if you... And just tell me who you are and short question.
I'm Franz Liebmann. I'm also part of the Austrian EV Society. And I have had one of the first Tesla, which was delivered in Austria since 2015. And I drove with the first battery 600,000 kilometers. And we have a similar company, maybe you know Avilo in Austria. And there we made the test before, and after 600,000 kilometers, I still had 82%. Then I drove through a flooded street, and after this, my battery was damaged. So I had to change it, not because of the degradation, I had to change it because it got wet. And at the moment, I have 735,000 kilometers, and I have the dongle from Avilo fixed in my car. They take all the data from my car all the time.
Thank you. You should sort of make a little promotion of yourself, because he's got an interesting blog you can follow. What is the name of the blog? Where can we find your stories?
Here in France, my number plate will be a little bit popular because it's so nice. In Austria, it's
but it's in German, huh? That's one of the problems.
It's so nice. And the number plate is so nice. So when I drove through France, all the people take pictures because they're thinking that I'm from Nice. And so it's so nice. .at for Austria, and there you can follow my car all the time. Not in the moment because it's in the garage, so I don't have a connection. But so nice.id, you see all my stories. I drove through 27 countries, till Africa, to the desert, to the Sahara. I tried everything. I plugged off a lot of coffee machines
it's
for charging.
Amazing. It's an amazing one. So follow him if you want to know everything about. You want to respond to that one?
No, I just wanted to say that, I'm not surprised with the results you were mentioning, because we also did some tests on lots of taxis in the region of Munich, and we also had almost the same results.
Someone had another question.
Hello. My name is Alfred Kuijer from EC, representing the Benelux and France region for us. First of all, I've been working for Tesla since 2013 till 2019 for 6 years, so I recognize completely what you're saying of the lack of knowledge in EVs. Like for Tesla, it was, I would say, like we are very well trained at the beginning, but of course we were also looking at competitors just to get a sense check of the market, and for all those years it was extremely low. They actually want to sell you into an ICE when you came in like determined to get an EV. They wanted to trigger you and go for an ICE car. On that state of health topic, I really like it for transparency reasons, but you also made a very interesting comparison, and I checked it in the meantime on my iPhone. On my iPhone, I can do a check within 10 seconds, and I know my state of health of the iPhone after 2 years.
Yeah.
Why on earth, EV manufacturers, they are working on self-driving cars and stuff. Why can they not build that in a car? And should we make that a regulation going forward?
Great question, yeah.
So I think that it will become one of the regulations in the upcoming years. So what we know is that by 2027, this state of health will be displayed on the screen of our cars. So this will be one of the answer to your question. But it's true that for now, there is no transparency on this topic.
And also, the OEM can or will provide the state of health through the BMS, but we cannot only trust the BMS. If you have a default in your BMS, you will have also a default in the results. So we'll talk about that yesterday, and that's why you have a test drive also linked to the BMS.
Yeah. And yeah, as you saw in the, maybe I will just go back to this slide just shortly because it's an interesting question. Here you can see on the right side the battery capacity. In some cases there are some lifetime buffers. It's exactly the case for Tesla cars, for example. And so here from one manufacturer to another, yeah, once again, it's not possible to have a consistency on this.
Yeah. Other questions?
Hi, I'm Graham Evans, S&P Global Mobility. It's a question for Dekra. If your test returns a result that says it's 70% remaining battery capacity, are you able to dig into why and provide the consumer some kind of explanation for why? And if I clarify my question, obviously the point around cyclability has been mentioned, how the battery has been charged, discharged during its lifetime. And there's a comment that really stays with me. A few years ago, one of the leading professors on battery development in the UK, Professor Greenwood at Warwick Manufacturing Group, he said the academic community has identified about 35 different ways that a battery can fail in use, and that the academic community has a good handle on modelling 4 of them, right? So all of these are the different ways that the battery can fail. We don't know why. We don't have information on what exactly is driving that failure. I think your data could be really, really powerful in helping understand the reasons for those failures if it's possible to look back historically and see how the battery has been used.
So you want to have more information on the state of health, but also what happened with it, or
exactly
so that the consumer knows what is the context. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that for now we are in the too early stage to have this kind of information gathered and being able to give some reasons for why this or this happened. What we are doing at DECRA is that we are right now building the biggest laboratory in Germany related to battery tests. So here we will being able by end of next year to deep dive in what happened within the battery during the usage. But here, coming back to this state of health, now we do not study for now, but as we are gathering plenty of data, as you can imagine, coming from those tests, we'll be able in the near future to get more information about the reason and what's happening on the battery degradation.
What is the near future? Is it 1 year, 2 years?
It's I mean 1 year. 1 year, I think. So first of all, we will have this lab ready, and so here in cases of deep dive analysis, we'll be able to run them on sites from our own, and then in terms of data, it's depending on the usage of those state of health tests.
Someone else want to ask a question? Okay.
Yeah, sure. My question is related actually, because you mentioned that the state of health reaching 80% will be like years, maybe 15 years, even more. So I'm wondering, do you do any sensitivity analysis on that, how you treat your batteries? Like you can treat it very nicely and make it live longer, and you can treat it quite roughly and it will last shorter. So have you done anything like that, or could you say how much is the difference between these different treatments?
So yeah, you're totally right, and so that's part of the training we are offering to our customers, meaning that we are giving them the best practices, how to charge, when to charge, etc. Not sure if I get your point, but
no, I think it was for you and your colleague there. If like, is the different years, like would it be like 3 or 4 or 5 years? Do you have an idea of that? The difference between how you treated the battery?
No, we don't. We have not explored that in our report. But yes, you are right. You can treat your battery well or not, and it will have an effect. But I think it would be a maybe 2-year period that you can shorten your.
How much of an effect would it have? Is it just 1 or 2%, or is it 10%?
Yeah, I don't.
Do we know that? Do we know anything about it?
No.
Not yet.
So behavior is maybe not that important? Is that a conclusion?
So I think there is a connection to the car's design. So you have a car like a Nissan Leaf that doesn't have active thermal management, then treating the car badly can be very detrimental to the battery. Versus if you have a Model S, like Franz has, which from the start had thermal management. So if you charge it fast, and the car recognizes this would damage my battery, it would throttle down the charge rate, right? And some of the owners were annoyed, but it's actually good for the health of the battery, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I said, if you buy a car, we need to educate the public that thermal management is really essential. So a car without thermal management that has been exclusively charged DC or with high charge rates might deteriorate much faster.
Yeah.
So you need to know the difference, right? If you have a car that has decent thermal management, then DC charging is not as much as an issue.
But Christian, you know what? I've no clue if I buy a car, does it have a decent, how do I know if it has got a decent thermal management? How do you know that?
But that's what I'm saying, right? This needs to be one of the questions that a dealer needs to be able to answer. It's not, a consumer shouldn't be Sherlock Holmes in finding out if a car has thermal management. This should be like, do you have 2 sets of tires? Do you have summer tires and winter tires? You have that on the sales sheet.
Yeah.
And the sales sheet should also tell you have a front-wheel drive, and by the way, you have thermal management.
Okay, great. Can I? Yeah, you would.
Just because I think it can be our answer can be a bit frustrated, but we have still so much to learn about battery. We know we have some learnings and we have some intuition, and the way you could treat your battery, we know it has an impact and a positive impact, but there is also so much more that we don't know. For example, we know that after a certain period of time, after those 15 years, you may have a knee curve when your battery may die rapidly. But we don't really know yet why. There is many studies on the subject, but we don't really know why. Also, we know that if something wrong should happen to your battery, it will be at the early stages of its life. And after that, you should be fine for at least 15 years. But we don't really know why. So there is many research ongoing on the subject, and we will learn very more in the upcoming years.
Thank you so much. You know what? We've run out of time, so I think next year we will have this topic again, maybe with some new information on batteries, thermal management, some new figures. Thank you. I hope it was worth you getting up early, and I hope you're very well informed now on the second-hand market, but I'm also aware that we didn't tackle all the topics. But they're here the rest of the morning, so please ask them the questions. Can I have a big hand of applause for the 4 panelists? And thank you. Thank you, and enjoy the day. Thank you.